What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Back Your Play with Q. I'm your host, as always, Rich Quinones. And of course, we are powered by our wonderful friends over at Play It Again Sports. Play It Again Deptford has new and slightly used sporting goods and all team sports as well as golf. They're offering cash and trade in for your slightly used items. No appointment necessary. You can give them a ring, 856-579-8250, or visit them online, playitagainsports.com. Choose the Deptford store. They got a lot of great inventory going on with the kids going back to school. You'll see all the information in the show notes. And don't forget, you can subscribe to the pod on Amazon Music, Spotify. You can catch us during the week on The Drive with Q on SR 1029 FM The Game. And we welcome back our good friend, the prop, Professor Shine, as we are in week 2 of the NFL season. Thursday night football, a lot of backstory storylines with the Buffalo Bills, and of course, Miami Dolphins with the Tyreek Hill situation. Last week, Buffalo got the win, didn't cover. Miami got the win, didn't cover. But here we go, 1-0, 1-0, Thursday night football. Prop, how are you?
Hey, good to be back. It's been a while. Nice to see you again. Lot's been going on. A lot busy stuff, contests, opening game,
Everything.
Major League Baseball, the Phillies went through that weird lull. We were talking off air. What the hell's up with the Phillies? And now, now they're really crushing people at home. And
series versus the Mets. Yep, they're absolutely.
Yeah, and then your Mets,
my Mets, my Yankees. I don't know. The Mets, they can go south. I don't.
They're the best team. They have the MLB's best record since May 31st.
You know what, though? The Mets are the Mets. I mean, Alonso's trying to play for a contract and he hasn't done diddly. But that is baseball. We know we love to go NFL heavies. I just mentioned you got the game tonight, Dolphins at home.
What with that?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's the type of line where you're looking at 2.5, 3. You look at the offenses, maybe people are leaning towards the over on this one, 48.5, depending upon where you lay your hat. But Buffalo is a good case study, right? And I think Miami to some extent, when you start to look at futures, when you're playing these team totals prior to the season. I know 1 week's in the books, and I know you were kind of happy. Let me steer clear of week 1 until we kind of figure it out, because we saw what Cincinnati was not able to do against New England. So let's start tonight. We'll kind of pinpoint a couple marquee games and then get your thoughts overall about the futures market with the win total with some of these teams. But how about the Bills and the Dolphins?
Well, if to your point, week 1, tread lightly. The things that we think we know aren't really what we know. Doesn't mean I pass the cards, but they're not as big, or the risk isn't as great as it would be, come week 4 or 5. Some people have different strategies towards that. I don't. I've been doing basically the same thing for a long time. I have a decent guesstimate, but you don't really know until you don't really know what the teams are until they get out and play. And you saw a lot of rust. You can go back and forth, look at that debacle on Monday. What the heck, the Jets lead, and McCaffrey didn't even play,
and they still got run on
9 straight, 9 straight, and then you have a thing where week 2 will come around. If you go back and look, even recent history, last 10 years, 12 years, you go back and look, week 2 in NFL, teams aren't as bad as we think, and some are not as good as we think. So are the Browns as unbelievably terrible as they looked against Dallas? Is Dallas that good? The Bills looked atrocious in the first half against Arizona, and then Josh Allen took over. I mean, he's a handful. So you had a lot of these. Are the Giants that bad?
Yes.
But
do you when Washington, they're
remember last year we were making fun of Tommy
Tommy Cutlets. Yeah.
The Giants are so bad, and they were like, you had every pundit in the world saying the Giants are the worst team I've ever seen, and then they beat up Washington. So
and they beat Green Bay too. They beat Green Bay on Monday night.
They beat Green Bay, and everybody's kind of like, oh my God, what's going on? So that's a good example for late in the year. I think you have a little bit of that now because there's only 18 weeks, 17 games. people, we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And then you see week one, you're like, oh my God, that team's great. That team stinks. I think you take a breath and you look, and then you look at what you had your power ratings at, or wherever maybe you're not as far off as you think, and the market right now kind of agrees with you. If you look at a game like the Giants, and that game opened at 2.5, it was 2, it's 1.5 juice now. Why? If you a blind, a rec batter might say, hey, that line should be 4, because they might not have watched or cared about, how Washington got, blown away down in Tampa. They just look at the Giants. Oh my God, they couldn't do anything. But that's kind of a segue into tonight's game. And if you remember, the last week of the year, at the end of the year last year, remember Buffalo went into Miami. And I think it was a relatively similar game.
Sunday night game.
It was a Sunday night game, and they went down there, and both teams played well from memory without looking it up. And I believe the win by the Bills is what set Miami into the freeze.
That's exactly it. Josh Allen went crazy with his arm and his legs. And remember too, Miami's their ground attack was banged up, and that loss forced Miami to then go on the road to Kansas City.
So, it seems like it was an eternity until you really think about it, because you get confused with, sometimes you get confused, but we're waiting so long for NFL. And Josh Allen seems like he's been there 100 years. And you're like, hey, what was the exact game? And then you remember, hey, that was a huge game. And it was very similar to this. I think if you do like to play totals early in the season, this looks like an over. I tend not to like or not fall in love with too many overs early in the season, unless I see something, drastic that, I feel may have been missed. But, this game opened, not that it's a huge difference. Now it's sitting at 2.5. It's not going to go to 3. It's not going to go over 3.5. I can see reasons to play Bills in some good teasers, and I can see reasons to play the Dolphins. I would not be surprised if the Dolphins win this game by 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 in a close game. Maybe makes everybody a little bit happy. The Dolphins did not look good. I only watched the first half, and then I watched the third quarter on a replay with Jacksonville, because I was interested, because I have a Jacksonville over this year. It's one of the few overs I have. And I actually have a Miami under. So that was not good for me right out of the gate. But I think that Jacksonville overall will bounce back, but they played really well and then didn't play well.
Yeah, they had the bad turnover, right? The touchback, and yep.
And of course, these things happen. I like to think that they even out as the season goes on. But because we only have this one game sample we're looking at, I don't think it's panic mode yet. But I did not think the Dolphins played, a great full game. And of course, the Bills didn't either. And nothing for nothing, but with the new kickoff rules, just kick it in the end zone, right?
Yep.
Am I missing something? Just kick in the end zone. Arizona brought one back against the Bills. I just think, at what point, McDermott, he doesn't squib 3 years ago, cost him the game. And he's kicking off to really fast people. I have to think every kick is going to be in the end zone.
Agreed.
Tonight's game. If there's a prop for touchbacks, it might not be enough. But I don't want to hedge on tonight's game a little bit, but I will tell you what I played. I have Bills and some teasers with your gents, with your Giants, that as soon as, you should play teasers really as close to kickoff as possible. I did the opposite. It looks like I'm going to luck out a little bit because the Giants game is down a point, which matters. over 7 is important in teasers, but now over 8 has become a little bit more important also. And with the way teaser prices are going up with every book that people play, that's not bad. But I also have Bills in a Lions teaser, and we can talk about the Lions as
Well,
we
I'm
move
glad you
into-
brought, yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Lions against Tampa Bay. The Lions didn't look particularly, world beaters. I mean, the Rams settling for field goals and not touchdowns. And then you got Tampa Bay that poured it on. I mean, Baker Mayfield looked like Montana back there, finding a home with that offense against a very suspect Washington team. And I get it. Look, you got a rookie quarterback making his first career start. That happens. But now you got the journeyman in Mayfield. And then you got, it's interesting. You got Jared Goff back there. And I'm hearing the arguments that, hey, I'll take Baker Mayfield right now over Goff. But be that as it may, is that line in your estimation where it should be 7, 7.5, or do you think that's a little too high for this game?
I played a real. Remember that game was tied in the divisional.
It was.
After 3 quarters, it was tied. They played competitively. We talked about it a lot last year. For all Mayfield's perceived faults, or whatever the reservations are, because remember when he got picked first, it was kind of a surprise. Not as much of a surprise as when Bryce Young got picked, but it was a surprise that because people don't think of Mayfield as being number 1, especially that year. I do think remember, if you remember, they played Kansas City really tough.
Yep.
Cleveland did what Mayfield was there. I think, and then the next year, Mayfield battled some injuries because he's a gamer. He's like, he's like, again, a boxing analogy. He just throws bombs, and sometimes you get caught. But those kind of fighters are very competitive, and you can't throw those guys out. And I don't think you can throw Mayfield out. I remember there was a midseason game last year. The game was close. I can't remember who was against it. Like, he was sacked. Every guy in the NFL, except maybe 1 or 2, except maybe Josh Allen, would have been sacked, and he battled out of it, threw for first down, kept the drive alive, and they went on and tied the score. It's just he has this kind of underdog mentality. And is he going to be an elite guy? I think he's in the top third of quarterbacks. But you have to like a guy that's going to be that really hates to lose the way he does.
Sure,
and
he grinds it and he hangs
battles
around.
and battles.
Yeah.
He really battles is he ever going to be the elite of the elite? Is he going to grow to be as good as Mahomes or Allen?
No.
But you know what? But now I'll tell you what, we're going to have a conversation about 6 weeks from now. I'm going to bring it up. You can mark it down in your notes. If Burrow keeps getting hurt, it's going to be a fair question. Who would you rather have, Baker Mayfield or Joe Burrow? Like right now, even last year, it'd be like, well, but if Burrow doesn't play, who cares how good he is when he plays?
Yeah, you got to be on the field.
Remember, he missed the first year. Last year he had the unfortunate thing. Is he healthy now? I think he is. But I'm going to give you to week 5 or week 6, because if he can't play, what difference does it make how good he is? So.
That game tonight,
I do, to answer, that's a long way to say, I do think that this game will be competitive.
Okay.
But, you can also be competitive and lose 34-24.
Yes.
Whatever the reason is, Goff Bowles' defense. I don't know if Goff studied it, if he studied it, if he has, the tendencies to beat Bowles' deep, but he just does really well against Bowles' style of defense. They can't seem to stop him. So I think that's more of an issue than really the Mayfield issue. I just think that Tampa may not be able to stop Detroit. And I'll give Detroit credit for one thing. The Rams are a good team. I did not think they would be as good. Now, I still might be right, but if everybody stays healthy now, of course, what's the name? Nakua is already going to be out.
Yeah, the wide receiver.
So injuries with this longer season than we're used to, even 6-7 years ago, guys are going to get hurt. But Rams are full strength, Lions are full strength. That's the kind of game you expected. I actually turned the game off because I had the Lions in the game. And once it gave up the 7, once it got tied, I said, they're not going to win. So I changed it. I put on the Phillies. I came back to see them in overtime. I was happy to see that. Good job by Detroit. I do think that they'll win, and I do have them in a teaser with the Bills. I teased it down to when it was 7, but 1.5. I don't think it's that huge of a difference. Of all the, I'd say, top teams, Detroit's the only one that I did not really completely fade. Detroit and Dallas, I did not fade. I think they're going to be right around where they were last year. I was, as you know, was really high on Goff last year. I was really high on Detroit. Obviously, I had that big future for Detroit to win the NFC,
Sure.
to win the Super Bowl, to get to the Super Bowl.
Same
I even
here,
had
yep.
crazy MVPs
Yep.
for Goff. I kind of did the same thing, although now Detroit's kind of like the sexy pick. It's not, it's not 30-25 or 20 or 18-1, 7-2. You're going to get 12 and 13 and 10 and 8. Which isn't as great, but
they have a great
they're a
season.
dangerous team.
Goff's going to be MVP if they go
If
13.
they get in the playoffs, that's kind of what I'm thinking, especially in a season if there's no clear cut guy.
Right.
If there's no clear cut guy. I also took a flyer on Dak, believe it or not, because I thought 22 and 24-1 and 20-1, 19. I just thought that was kind of egregious a little bit. I don't like McCarthy, as you know. As far as the Detroit game you mentioned McVay, taking field goals. As good as McVay has been in all the other facets, I think his in-game stuff still is not great. And when you start taking field goals over some touchdowns,
Fight you in the fanny,
or potential touchdowns in close games, it could cause you. Now, a cynic could say the opposite. You should take the field goal all the time. But as you know, I'm on the other side. And if you really want to talk a complete other side criticism, is what the coach of Oakland, Antonio Pierce, did in the Charger game. I tweeted it out, and people that watched the game said they had under 6 minutes, about 5:55 mark. Now, I'm doing it off my head. It was on the Charger 43 in the fourth quarter. They're down 6, and Pierce punted. And you kind of made the game where if the Chargers get a first down,
that's it.
You have a problem. If they get 2 first downs, it's done. The worst case is if they go down and score, and that's what they did. And I believe it was Brian Burke or something that posted out in the last, I think 7 or 8 years, that scenario has come up 64, 65 times, and it's the only punt. That's been the only punt.
Everyone's
so that shows you
yeah.
how insane. Now, I said last year, if Pierce gets the full-time job, he's going to cost the Raiders at least
his in-game coaching's horrible.
Now, I don't know if they would have won that game, but you can't punt there. You can't punt there. And he took a field goal earlier at 4th and 1. It's just, there's some things that are close, and there's some things that are not close.
He got the job when they beat Kansas City on Christmas Day. That's when he got the job. By the way, that Lions game, one of the highest totals of the weekend, 51 and a half. Here you go.
I was going to error, Rich. I would take over. I would go over because I could see a game where Detroit gets out and then Mayfield just doesn't stop.
28-24 type of game.
I could see 34-24. I could see that. That's not great. I'm not going to play that. Actually, the one total I did play is I played under, and the reason Raiders was on my head is because I played under in the Raiders-Ravens game. I think this game will actually
very low
be
totals.
Close. I don't think that they're going to. I don't think the Raiders are going to win the game, but I would not be surprised if this is, 19-14, 19-13.
Well, how about Seattle? How about New England and Seattle, and then Steelers and Denver? How about those totals? New England, Seattle's right around 30, 38 and a half. And then the Steelers, because they're going to Fields with Denver and Bo Nix, 36 and a half for an NFL game. 36.
I like under I actually like the Broncos more. Steelers, their defense play guy, TJ Watt is, I get the Watt brothers mixed up with the Bosa brothers all the time. You know, I did it on a Super Bowl pod, and they were all making fun of me. It isn't like they're not. Listen, if you
Nick
didn't
in
see
San
their
Francisco,
names,
Joey with the Chargers. There you go.
but the Watt brothers and the Bosa brothers are very similar style play.
Yeah.
They're I mean, all four guys are going to be Hall of Famers, I think. As long as Joey Bosa stays healthy, he's on that pick. But they're great edge rushers. They're giant guys. They're super fast. Watt's probably the better, maybe the best of all four. They called him on an offsides last week where Cousins fumbled, and it was razor thin. I mean, he put his hands up. It was really, really close. I think he beat the gun almost like a 100-meter sprinter. When you beat you catch the gun. I think he caught it. I don't think he was offsides, but I mean, God, the guy's so fast, and he's such a problem. It's like, 30, 40 years ago when they were starting to line up Lawrence Taylor, all these different places, and nobody could block him. And you would think 30-something years later, yeah, we can block him. No, it's really hard to block Watt, and he keys the whole defense because now he makes you do different things. But with that being said, Denver's defense, I mean, they got two safeties last year.
Yeah. Well, the kid made a bad throw.
I don't remember the last time they had two safeties.
He made a couple bad throws. He made a sideline throw. You're not going to want to do that. But obviously, Payton's going to have patience with him, unlike last year with Russell Wilson. And
he had a couple interceptions that were bad. He doesn't have one of the interceptions. Denver probably wins the game. Denver's defense played great. Steelers win the game without scoring a touchdown. I would not think this game goes over at all, but I also don't like the Steelers. And I also think Fields is going to play as long as if they somehow win, 16. Well, let's give Denver another two safeties. Let's say they win 16-11 or 16-12 or something. He's going to start.
He's going to continue to start as long as they win and he doesn't turn the ball over.
Yeah, he's going to keep playing. But I do like Denver in the game. I actually like the money line in the game. I do have that. It's another game I have in some multiple teasers. I actually have it in the Circa Millions contest. I don't, the game's not going to go through. If anything, I think it will go back down, barring any unforeseen injury or something completely strange. But that's how I see that game. I see, if you want to focus on this kind of theme that we're going on, teams play terrible, will they play at least not as terrible? And teams that play great, will they come back to earth? I think the Saints in Dallas, I mean, remember last year, Dallas just feasted on all those average.
Oh, they were killing them at home. They were killing them.
I think the Saints are in trouble. I said that the Saints just steamrolled Carolina.
A bad team.
They are bad.
That kid's a bust, by the way. That kid's a bust.
I'm going to get he is. It isn't like we didn't call it. Stroud was probably the best guy. If you really wanted to roll the dice, you could have went Richardson. And, the guy that they made sit in the green room, he's starting on the team. Levis is starting on the team. He played great in the first half in Chicago. It's a game that Tennessee really needed to win because I think they're in trouble this week. Because I don't think the Jets are going to give up 9 straight drives against the Titans.
And the Jets just can't. They can ill afford to go. They can ill afford to go 0-2 to start the season. The
Jets have an easy schedule the next 5 weeks. But if they come out 2-3 or 1-4, it's going to go back to another thing we said, which is Bill Belichick coaching the Jets. And it's something that I haven't heard anybody said before. I mean, he was buddies with Rodgers. He has the defense. Why they didn't cancel Salah then was, I guess, I don't know. The New York guys or the Jet fans would know more than me. One prominent Jet fan that I'm friends, with on X said, they're never going to hire Belichick. I think never is a strong word. I could see them not bringing Belichick in. But if they're 1-4, Robert Salaeh is going to get canned. Now, coaches never get fired in the middle of the season, but he's not. As long as you keep Hackett with Rodgers, I think that's all he cares about.
That's the thing, right? You're not. The thing is with Belichick, if he comes in, Hackett's no longer going to be the offensive coordinator. Hackett's a Rodgers guy, Jet fan and
defense problem. What if this defense isn't as? What if it's a defense problem? Like, what if this defense?
Listen, you got
isn't as good?
Hassan Reddick losing $800,000 a game. I mean, that's just absurd. I mean, but they've got Tennessee, New England, Denver, Minnesota, Buffalo, right? So if best case scenario, if they're 4-1, 4-2 going in that Buffalo game, you take it. If they're 3-3, 2-4, and they're struggling offensively, and Rodgers is barking and telling people relax, yeah. If they lose,
if they're losing games, they're losing games 31-27. That's going to be on Salaeh.
He should have been fired after last year. He should have been fired.
I agree. We both agreed with it. I thought. Now this is going to be a moot point because I think they're going to absolutely steamroll
Tennessee.
I think this line actually moved up in my favor. I already played the Jets. I think the Jets ticked down to 3 for like a couple seconds. I played it early because there's some dead numbers in there, 5.5. But I actually have a money line play on it too. I just think the Jets aren't as bad as they looked. San Fran is a good team. Tennessee is not a good team. They're gonna make some mistakes. I think Rodgers is gonna feast on them. I think if their defense is gonna get right, it's gonna get right. Unfortunately, on Will Levis. I mean, we did bring up the Panthers. Here's a crazy game for you because how much guts does it take to play the Panthers this week? This line went to 6. It got to 6. It was 6 juiced. I didn't get the 6 minus 10. I played Carolina +6. So you can laugh at me next week.
No. I mean, listen, I don't believe in their offense or the quarterback. If you want to go the adage, okay, the Chargers a little bit of a letdown after beating the Raiders and Harbaugh, here we go. But look, New England, who I think is not going to be favored in one game this season, what do? They go and they beat Cincinnati to open up the season, right? So it's like, it's the NFL, man. I mean, nothing shocks me. Nothing surprises me. That total is 36.5.
We've been around a long time.
If Carolina's plus 200, plus 225, I play him.
I think 6 is a lot. I think this is going to tick down. Not that it overly matters that much. It'll probably end up 5, 4.5. No one's going to play Carolina. No one except for, crazy people like me who think that the Chargers aren't any good. And really, this is if you go back historically, I'm big on not what the name of the team is on the jersey. And I'm big on not what team are you most like that we've seen before, and as long as they're not the Browns under what's his name? Because remember, there was a lot of sharp people for, I don't know, more than a year that were playing the Browns. I actually had a couple. Remember, the Browns were getting 5, losing by 14. They were getting 8, they were losing by 30. Remember, it was just this thing. Oh, you guys are so stupid playing the Browns. And then the year after, I believe Hugh Jackson got fired, they ran off 4 or 5 in a row, and they were all overlays. So, unfortunately for football, did you have to wait 2 years to get your money back if you were playing on the Browns? Remember how they were just atrocious. The Carolina is equally atrocious, but I don't think, I'll go back a little bit. They're not as atrocious as that, I don't think. So as long as they're not that terrible, I think these are the kind of games that the Carolina will cover. The Chargers are not a good team yet. I think they eventually could be good. They have Herbert, nothing else. And I could see them struggling and squeezing out a 17-13 13 games, 17, 14, something like that. They did not play well against the Raiders. They had two
No.
big plays, and they're still feeling things out. It's really tough. I'll say this in a nutshell. Good teams lay 6 on the road in the NFL and cover.
Fair
Good
enough.
teams. The Chargers are not an elite or even a good team. And I don't care what the Panthers are. And hey, if I'm wrong, you know what'll happen? Chargers will be 14-13 late. And Bryce will throw an interception and I'll lose 21-13, getting 6.
Yeah, the old pick six, the old Aaron Brooks route.
So that's a chance I'm going to take. I actually think that they're live to win the game. I'd like to get a little bit more than what I'm getting, but I'll take the +6. I don't know if I'm going to take it in the contest. I have till Saturday at 1, probably not going to. But that's that. We kind of touched on Dallas a little bit. I think, if you want to lay a favorite this week, I think that's an even better play than laying the Jets, because I don't like the Jets on the road, although I do like teams that are kind of above average, like the Jets, who get embarrassed and then have to go lay under a touchdown against some bad teams. That's not necessarily a trend. There's more things I look at than that, but I'm just setting that up to say, you know what, if you're really tied to a team, be lucky that Dallas is in 6. I do think that if I was going to bet on something going higher, Dallas could end up at kickoff at 7, because I think they're going to absolutely swamp New Orleans. This is not the Panthers.
Going through week 2 of the NFL docket again, another edition of Back Your Play, BYP with Q. Rich Quinones here, the prop con enough to join us. We are powered by our good friends over at Play It Again Sports. Play It Again, Deptford has new and slightly used sporting goods in all team sports as well as golf. They got a ton of merchandise. They're offering cash and trade in for your slightly used items. No appointment necessary. You can give them a ring, 856-579-8250. Convenience store hours as well. Visit them online, playitagainsports.com. Choose Deptford. And again, you'll see all the show notes down below when we throw this bad boy up on the YouTube channel, Rich Q on Q. We'll go over some of these picks as well tomorrow on the drive with Q 3 to 5 on a Football Friday Frenzy as well. All right, a couple more games before I let you get out of here. Well, we definitely have to get into, you mentioned Cincinnati and the issue with Joe Burrow at Kansas City. A pretty little fat, hefty number. That should be the national game, I would assume, 425 on CBS. Cincinnati, listen, a lot of people thought they were going to take a step back, and rightfully so, right? But you mentioned Burrow. He's been banged up. You're in a tough division. You got Kansas City, AFC West. We know what they can do. Didn't look like world beaters against the Ravens to open up the season, but you got a healthy Patrick Mahomes and a banged up Joe Burrow.
Well, we'll see how banged up he is, I guess, right? If he comes out and he can, he can start zipping the ball around, we'll know. I think there's a lot of questions about Burrow. You can't. I mean, that was embarrassing how they played. Now they did have a little bit of bad luck. They had the big receiver who goes in and he kind of was about to do a dance and he fumbled going into the end zone. They had another play, I think, early in that game on a decent drive, or was it later in the game? Fumble. There was a fumble on one of the early third quarter drives. They shot themselves in the foot. Maybe it was just a little bit of rust. I think of their first 4 drives in the game, they did have one good one, and that ended up in the fumble. Maybe we're overblowing it after 1 week, but this is going to be the telltale sign. I do think that the Bengals will play better. I do think if there's any kind of blasé-ness, like, we have the Patriots coming in, yeah, I can just show up kind of thing. It does happen. These guys are pros, but, they're 22-year-old pros, This kind of, Jamar Chase, did he sign his contract, like, on the way into the, on the way in? I mean, I think you're playing the Chiefs. You know what what is asked of you. You know, you're playing New England. I do think there's still a level, especially with these younger guys, that they can just show up. And we're going to turn it on, turn it off. 14-0, 13-0. Who cares? We're good to go. And then all of a sudden you look up, there's 7 minutes left in the fourth. I don't think that's going to happen. I expect Burrow to play well, play better. I mean, he can't play that much worse, but I do expect them to have less turnovers. We'll find out. All the Bengal fans that he owns Mahomes, he owns Arrowhead. We'll find out. I think that the Bengals will play a lot better. I think they'll get on the number, and I do think the game will go over because it won't. I don't think they're going to win a 2017 game. I think if they win, it's going to be, 30-27, 31. Let's do something out weird, 33-31. I can see that happening. Bengals Chiefs. I think they're going to let it hang out. Now, are the Chiefs that good that they can slow them up? It's tough to slow up. If Burrow's even 90% healthy, it's tough to shut them down. That's kind of how I see that game. And, it'll help the Bengals if they score, 30-something points. It'll quiet everybody down, even if they somehow lose 35-33 or something like that.
Yeah, then
So
you go into the New York
Bengals
Jet.
move.
Yeah, you go to the New York Jet moral victories. But
Well, I just figure if something goofy happens,
sure, you can't
they'll
get
say,
on
you
them
know
for that.
what? The Burrow did play well. If he comes out, he's 25 or 34, and he throws for 401 yards, and he loses 35-33. Everyone's going to say, hey, he's back.
Yeah.
He's back.
Yep.
But I plus you'll have gotten the money. I don't.
Right.
Which
is all we're concerned
I'm not
about.
a Bengal fan. I just care if they get the
Yeah.
money. But I think that will be the main game for 4:00 prime time. You had that night game Sunday night, which is interesting too. I think the Bears are in trouble as well. I think Williams didn't look great.
Nope.
He didn't even look good. I think they were lucky to beat Tennessee.
Defense and special teams bailed them out.
I think they're going to get swamped Sunday night. I think Stroud is going to come back to the pack. I actually have Texans as under for the season, but I can see them winning this game, going away, 27-10, something like that. Maybe they'll get a couple field goals in there, 27-13, something like that. But I think if you're going to play, I actually have the Texans in the millions contest as well. The lines just came out today, by the way, for the millions at 11. Dax, Jeffrey Benson, and all those guys. But I do think the Texans will handle the Bears.
And then your Eagles Monday night against the Falcons.
Oh God,
Captain Kirk
Cousins. If he's ever going to play well on prime time, it isn't going to be
when
Monday.
now, or not now, when,
Monday.
whatever the hell it is.
I don't know how many times they're going to play on national TV.
I think this is their only national. I think this is only their primetime game, Atlanta.
Well,
and I actually think
what?
when they're 1-5 and he's struggling, they're going to go to Penix. I'm looking at their schedule right now. They got one more primetime game, and that's mid-December, ESPN against the Raiders.
They were a popular pick to go over.
Oh, in Tampa. I'm sorry, Thursday Night Football.
Oh, they love Tampa. Listen, they were a popular pick with the new coach. And, the rest of that division stinks and blah, 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 blah.
Oh, my God. Not to cut you off, I stand corrected again. Yeah. They got Sunday Night Football. Wow. They got the Eagles on Monday, Sunday Night Football. They're going to get waxed by Kansas City. They're on four times this year. Oh, my.
I looked at it a week ago. And I completely I blanked it out because all I cared really about was this kind of first one.
Right.
And I actually assumed wrongly that the Falcons
would
somehow squeeze out. I thought they would squeeze out a win in this spot, but Tomlin always wins these kind of goofy games. I think he's in trouble this week, like I said, only because I think of the 2 road games, they got their win. They got their win, and then now they have to go out to Denver. I think that they're going to lose a close game. But would it surprise me if the Steelers won 13-10 again? No, but they played well against the Falcons. But is it the Falcons? Just didn't look that good. I heard some things like, "Oh, he was favoring his Achilles." Everybody I know had Achilles when
they were asking him about. They were asking him about his health. The coach was asking. The coach was asked about his health already. I mean, you give him that type of money, and then
don't think he's that good. He's they overvalue him. He's one of his agent and him have done one of the smartest. I don't want to say bamboozled, but they've done one of the smartest fake outs ever, because Kirk Cousins is a check down guy. Remember the Giants game 2 years ago?
4th and 8.
4th and 11. He checked down with the season
to the tight end.
But you know what? When you have to go in and say, okay, why do you deserve X? He can look and say, well, look at my stats
and my record stats. Yep.
My completion percentage, but all the crap that's like, okay, yeah, I guess, but when all's said and done, he's just not that good. He's not the guy. And I think this is why he sucks on prime time. I mean, is that a trend? Is it a coincidence? That I don't think it is. I think he gets exposed in playoffs. He gets exposed as in prime time as being like, and he gets exposed against good teams. But when the spotlight's on, he's not. He's just an average guy at the end of the day. And I do think at 1-5 they'll have nothing to lose. They'll say, Cousins will end up being, Gus Frerotte kind of guy, and they'll put him, except he's got like whatever $900 zillion. It's tough to bench that kind of guy, but they might be forced to. I think they're going to lose big on Monday. If the only way that they'll hang around is if Eagles have like 5 turnovers or something crazy like that, which I don't think is going to happen. Eagles are going to run the ball a lot. They're going to run right. If they get a lead, they're going to run it even more. And it's going to be, a tough game. And the Eagles are also built where if they get down 7 or 10-0,
no panic.
They don't panic. They can spread guys out. It's something that I don't think we're too close to say that the Eagles are still an elite team. It was really odd what happened to them after they got 10-1, but I said it off fair. I really think it's kind of like a boxer who took a lot of body punches. They had to win in Kansas City and home against Buffalo. They had to play Dallas in the middle of that twice. They had to play. It was just on and on and on. And I think they ran out of gas completely. And the season's really long, and that's kind of a stretch. You don't want that stretch of tough games really to come in the middle of the year. I think it started with at Seattle.
And late in the game.
And it was just, and I think we could segue back into, or bring it all back to tonight's game. I think the Bills will win this game tonight, and I think it's really important because look at their next 4 games. Bring their schedule up. Actually, look at their next 6 games. I'm not even looking at it, and I know that they finish at the end of the year. I think they get New England twice or something, but they might be in the East. They might be like the East. Remember last year,
Miami, Jacksonville, Baltimore, Houston, and the Jets coming up.
Now, that's like, road hazards. Home hazards. That's hazard. It's hazard all over. It's tough. Last year, we were looking at the Eagles, and we said almost the exact same thing. They finished 2 of the last 3 against the Giants. Well, those are automatic wins. Remember? And we were, and they were fighting for their lives.
Yeah.
Both games. And I think, you don't want to, the Bills don't want to get in a situation where they win the games and we're like, oh my God, they're 6-1. and they have nothing left. They just completely run out of gas because they you know, and it could happen. But I do think it'll soften that blow is if they can win tonight, which they can. And I think they will.
Hey, don't forget, give the prop a follow on X at Professor Shine. And of course, his appearance as he joins me during the football season from our wonderful friends over at Play It Again Sports. I know the kids are back to school. Not a problem, man. Take them out there. Take them shopping for some clothes, will you? Some sporting equipment and more.
Okay.
Play It Again Deptford, new and slightly used sporting goods and all team sports, as well as golf. They got a ton of golf equipment, tees, drivers, cleats, you name it, spikes, everything. They're offering cash and trade-in for your slightly used items. No appointment necessary. Call for details, 856-579-8250. Visit them at playitagainsports.com and choose Deptford. The prop's going to join us all season long, NFL. And if you follow him on X and you don't understand the tagline, Markinson's gone, there is no Markinson. You know what he did for 15 years? He was counterintelligence. If you don't know the line to that movie, then I have to say you are not a fan of BYP. You're not a fan of me, and you're not a fan of our guest, Professor Shine. I mean, by the way, I just finished, and everyone knows, I just finished, I'll let you out on this. When I get sucked into a bad show, I have no choice but to watch it, right? When you're in, you're in. So I'm like, you know what? Let me check out Prison Break. I heard a lot of reviews about Prison Break. So I went through season 1. I'm like, yo, this is very compelling stuff, man. It's ridiculous. The guy tattoos his body, Prison Break plans. Season 2, Season 3, are you kidding me? Season 4, do I have to finish this? Season 5, what the hell did I get my, well, let's break out of prisons in Panama and Cuba and Costa Rica. And I'm like,
Let me ask you, did the producers change? Because sometimes I take a look at that. Sometimes
well, the
things
actors started to produce and direct some, but I mean, it happens, right? Because
you
now
don't have the showrunners. Sometimes look at the Game of Thrones, the last season. It's a big difference. You know, when you lose some of these main guys. I will give you something that was on hiatus
yes,
for a while. As far as it was Jeff Bridges in Old Man. I thought the first season
coming back.
was great, and this is why I don't fall in love. I usually wait for a series to get a second season.
Love the Old Man.
Sometimes third season, because you don't want to fall in love with it and then go, what the hell happened? And I watched Old Man, I loved it, and I go, where the hell's the second? Now, you know, Jeff Bridges is the kind of guy, you know, that could disappear if he goes in and gets the right role.
That dude, I know. But you're right.
So I was pissed off. I said, oh man, I'm glad it's coming back. It'll be here. I think it's September 3rd too. I think it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow. So
Tulsa King coming back.
Yeah, I think it's a great, but if anybody wants to watch the series, I do like Old Man.
I love it. It's a great series.
I thought the first 3 episodes were great. I think Jeff Bridges is great. I will end. We can talk about the Phillies next week because it probably makes more sense. We'll know where the Mets are. We'll know if the
after
Braves
this
are
weekend.
For anybody that's following baseball, I don't think the Tigers are going to catch Minnesota. I do think Minnesota's going to make the playoffs. Kansas City's 5 games up as of this morning or last night on Detroit. I think Kansas City's going to make it. There is some. I have a big future on the Yankees winning the East. I also had a big future on Milwaukee. I had 7-1 and 8-1 with limits to win the Central, which I couldn't be happier about.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to sweat the Yankees out, and that was a dog.
Yeah.
Richie was a dog. So I'm hoping that gets in. But I will mention something about college football really quickly as really for any fans or people that are interested. Hey, listen, I really need to get some games in. I do like Kansas tomorrow. The game opened 7 for a minute. It was 7.5. It's up to 9. Even some places is up to 9 juiced. Some places -9.4. I say it's good up to 10. They're home against UNLV. I think they're a much better team. We didn't get a chance to make fun of Florida State. Now they tried to sue, and then they got egg. They don't have egg on their face. They got the whole chicken on their face. Like I don't know what they were thinking. But you talk about karma. If you believe in karma, Oh my God, just horrible. And I think the look ahead line was something crazy, like 20 in this Memphis game or something. It's like 6.5. Like it's just, it's absolutely insane. But if you need a game besides some of these really early games, I did have Nebraska last week. It was really the only big game I had. I'm not big into revenge, but as you know, as a as a follower of Temple, I've always been a big Matt Rule fan. Even though he flamed out in Carolina, he did an unbelievable job in Baylor. I think he needed to weed some of his guys out in Nebraska. I think they'll be even better next year. I knew they were going to house Deion in Colorado. I didn't think they would house him that much, but I did like Nebraska. Keep your eye on Nebraska as we get further into the year. If anybody has any questions, they can DM me. But to show you how bad Temple has been, they're getting 18 at home since I brought Temple up to Coastal Carolina. I mean, how bad does it get that you're getting 18 at home to Coastal Carolina? But that's college football for you. And again, we'll touch on more stuff. It's early for college. But if anybody has a question on any games, I believe me, I have a lot of I'm playing these games a little bit, but I'm adjusting how the ratings are, how I gauge these games. I get more invested in college football. Right around next week and the week after, I have more of a gauge. It does close my window down about 8 weeks where I have good games. But as you know, I always do well with bowls. And this year with the playoff, I'm happy that it's finally going to be 12 games in. And another team we won't make fun of, we'll make fun of next week, is Notre Dame.
Oh, of
So
course. We will definitely, we will have our
they don't
annual
cover
Notre
this
Dame.
week,
Yes.
Purdue, they're laying almost 10 in Purdue. If they win by 40, we won't make fun of them as much, but there you go.
All right, there he is, the prop. Don't forget, give him a follow, Shine, the prop, at Professor Shine on X. Always kind enough to join us every week on BYP Back Your Play with Q. Don't forget, subscribe to Amazon and also Spotify. And you can catch us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 to 5 on the drive with Q on Sports Radio 1029 FM The Game. Check out the YouTube channel. You'll see all the notes from our sponsor, Played Against Sports, when we upload this momentarily. But as we always like to say on Back Your Play, if you say it, you play it. If you back it, you're going to stack it. Prop, always appreciate a couple of moments, my friend. Best of luck this weekend.
Take care. Thank you. You too.